What's up, everybody? My name's Big Cam and welcome back to another movie review. And today we are talking about 2025's Eternity from director David Freyne. Freyne? Oh. F-R-E-Y-N-E? Freyne? Maybe silent Y? I don't know. Sorry if I butchered your name. Director David, and he has done a few other films. He seems like he's a writer-director type, and he wrote and directed some other films like The Cured in 2017. He did Dating Amber in 2020, and now Eternity in 2025. And writing and directing is a pretty hard thing to do these days, but just under 2-hour movie. It's now streaming on Apple TV+. I actually really enjoyed it and had a great time watching this, even though it's not like the most action-packed or entertaining in the sense, but by the ending it did have a couple of beats that were like, okay, things are getting exciting, you know, like where most of it's kind of like a slow and it's mostly about the dialogue and the writing and just like figuring out who these characters are to each other. But by the end of it, you're like, no, don't choose the wrong guy. You need to choose your love. You know, like you buy into the whole premise here. And is a good movie? Maybe not. You know, that's up to you. But what it 100% did was get me thinking about the possible scenario here. And like if I was the woman in the scenario played by Elizabeth Olsen and I had married somebody but he went off to war and he died, and then, you know, he waited in heaven or eternity for me for 67 years waiting for me to show up so that they could go live the rest of their life with me. And after he died, I waited 2 years and then married this guy and married him for 65 years. They were married together. They had family, they had kids, they had great-grandkids, they had grandkids. You know, like, they lived the full life. And sure, they get at each other's throats and like but they've lived together. They lived for each other. And Larry, all he ever wanted in life was for her to be happy. You know, like he doesn't even know why she likes him or why he is who he is. He's like, I just want her to be happy and I'm happy if she's happy. You know, like, and it's very, very sweet. And I actually thought it was hilarious how much Miles Teller and Elizabeth Olsen captured the energy of the old people, right? Like, because at the very beginning of the movie, they're just old as hell, and the poor guy eats a pretzel and dies. And, like, he chokes on a pretzel and dies, and she has cancer, and she dies a week later, so, like, they die a week apart of each other. So he's in eternity waiting for her for a week, and he's like, is she gonna come? I don't know. Should I meet her in my eternity? Should I wait for her? What do I do? I don't know what to do. They're telling me I only have 7 days in my room, you know, so he's not sure what's gonna happen. But then Elizabeth Olsen dies, and then she shows up, and then she is stuck in a rock and a hard place between this handsome, dreamy Callum Turner, who's Luke, who has been the bartender in eternity, but also her first husband that was somebody that died in the war. And he's like, yeah, you died in a war. It's Korea. It's not one of the good ones. And they're like, what the fuck? You know, like, I was dying. I was like, well, it's not World War I or II. It's not Vietnam. It's Korea. You know, it's a different war. It's a different war. There's still wars going on today, so it's not like it's all that cracked up to be in a war. You know, like that's not a point of pride. It's like, oh, you lived in a world that was fucked up. Good for you. You know, like, oh no, like. But the cast, the rest of the cast in this, old Larry and old Joan, played by Betty Buckley and Barry Primus, they were great. And the rest of the crew being Ryan Early, who is one side of the equation's AC, their afterlife coordinator, and then Divine Joy Randolph is our boy Larry, played by Miles Teller, his afterlife coordinator. And then by the end, those two afterlife coordinators are hooking up, and they're like, yeah, we didn't want it to be weird, but we're gonna give this a shot again. You know, like, and one of them, John Early, I think is completely fucking gay. So like him being like, oh, I'm dating Divine Joy Randolph here, woo, you know. Like, there was some funny parts in this, but really it's the three of them the whole time. And, you know, she thinks and he thinks that they're making the right decisions, but I was so very glad that, you know, it's spoilers if you guys don't want to know the actual ending of this, but I was so very, very glad myself that this had a satisfactory ending to me, where the whole time, you know, she's like, well, you know, I never got a chance to live the life with him. I got a chance to live with you. You know, and they're both being selfish. They both want her in their own ways. And, you know, she's like, fine, I don't choose either of you. And then finally he's like, you know, that's not right. You know, now she's going to be unhappy by herself. We're going to be by ourselves. You know, like, that's not the right decision, you know? So he goes, why don't you go with him? It will make you happy. Give him the shot that he deserves. He's a good guy. Go do it. So she gives him the shot, but now it's been 60 years since they had anything in common or they talked. It was young love, you know, like they never really loved each other the way that a marriage of 65 years makes you love somebody, you know. So she loves Luke, but not the same way she loves Larry. So Luke, you know, wants to go to Mountain World and look at beautiful views and be cold, and, you know, Larry wanted to go to Beach World and be toes in the sand and warm, you know, and like, and it turns out neither of those are all that it's cracked up to be. So what they end up choosing, and she ends up, you know, breaking the rules and leaving the eternity that she ended up choosing with Luke to go run back, and she's like a fugitive now, and she runs back to find that Luke, or Larry, Miles Teller's character, her actual love, he never went to an eternity, and he's been sitting there waiting for her this whole time. And she's like, I'm a fugitive, and he's like, you're a fugitive, huh? When do we leave? When do we go? You know, like, and he, without even a second thought, he's like, I've been waiting for you. I've been a bartender just waiting for you to change your mind. So yeah, I'm glad you're back. Where are we going? And they don't go to a beach, and they don't go to somewhere else. They go to an eternity that looks exactly like the place that they lived, you know, in the little street that they built a community around, and, you know, and they just wanted to continue the life that they were already kind of living, but now they're in their younger bodies, and they get to do that for eternity. And I thought it was very, very sweet and like a good story. And like I said, it's not the most entertaining or most, you know, impactful, action-packed movie, but, you know, the dialogue's pretty good, and by the end of the movie, I felt very, very satisfied, you know, like, where not every movie today, you get to the ending and you're satisfied, you know, like, sometimes you get to the ending and you're like, oh, that was it? You know, like, I just saw a movie the other day called Crime 101, and when we got to the end, we were like, oh, okay, that's it. You know, like, and we were like, oh, that was good, but I don't know if I enjoyed myself the way that I did with this ending, you know, and like, but that movie was action-packed and kind of had this plot going that I was entertained the whole time, and I was much more dragged into Crime 101 throughout the entire movie, but the ending wasn't that satisfying for me. So for this movie, even though I wasn't enthralled and like on the edge of my seat the whole movie, when I got to the end, I was, right? So the whole time I was kind of just watching it, enjoying it, and then the last 20 minutes, I leaned in, I was on the edge of my seat, and then by the ending, I was like, that was very sweet, I liked it, you know? And not every movie you watch today, especially 2025 movies, you watch, and by the end of it, you know whether you liked it or not. And if you have followed my channel and watched the movie reviews, I don't always know if I liked it or not, especially after a first watch. I might need to watch it a second or a third time to really make up my mind if I liked the film or not. This one time, got to the end, satisfied, I liked it. You know, like that goes a long way. And even though the score for the movie, I gave it an overall 3.5 out of 5 stars, which is about the middle of the road where this belongs and where I put a lot of my films, in that 6 to 7 stars, or 6 to 7 out of 10 stars, you know what I mean? But this 7 out of 10 is much more of like a 7.8, 7.9 out of 10, just almost a 4-star, where like a 4-star I will rewatch any day of the week happily. This is like just under that. It's like a 7.9, almost an 8, but it's one of those films where, like, I don't need to watch it again. I got it the one time, you know, like, I watched it, I absorbed it, I have retained everything I need to from this movie, and I won't rewatch it again, but I very much so enjoyed it, and I thought it had a satisfying ending, and I would recommend it to people like my mother or to you guys, you know? And if you guys go and watch this yourself, please comment below your thoughts on it, or if you've seen it, you know, maybe you saw it in the theaters or something. That's a whole different experience, so I'd love to know your thoughts about it. But just to close up here, the little Letterboxd synopsis for this movie reads, "You can only choose one. In an afterlife where souls have 1 week to decide where to spend eternity, Joan is faced with the impossible choice between the man she spent her life with and her first love, who died young and has waited decades for her to arrive. Ooh. So yeah, very much so what I laid out here is what goes down, and Callum Turner's very handsome, Miles Teller, so she's stuck in a very handsome man sandwich. And yeah, Elizabeth Olsen's freaking great, so I can love her be a leading woman any day of the week. But yeah, I need Elizabeth Olsen back as Scarlet Witch ASAP, and I really hope Callum Turner doesn't become James Bond, but if he does, you know, I'll give him a shot. I'll at least watch the movie, but he's not my first choice at the current moment. I'd rather some other actors get a choice of being that character, you know what I mean? But he does have the face of Bond, you know, you see him, he has a great look of Bond, but I don't know if he is James Bond, you know what I mean? Like, he's got that style, but not the character, you know? I don't know. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this movie. If you want to comment below your score, now streaming on Apple TV, so go check it out for yourself. Comment below your thoughts, or you can send them to me on my other social medias. Links for those down in the description below. And if you've made it this far into the video and you would like to support the channel, the best way of doing that is liking this video, commenting down in the comment section below, subscribing if you haven't already, and make sure you hit that bell so you don't miss future movie reviews and you get the notifications when those come out. Once again, my name's Big Cam, and I will see you beautiful people in the next episode. Peace!